Hey, what's up my people, IceRestrict12 here, and today I'm very excited to bring you a brand new Eldlich profile deck video. With the release of Skill Drain from the ban list from 1 to 3, Eldlich players got a huge boost as far as competitiveness in the meta. Now it's amazing how one card going from 1 to 3 can completely pull a strategy like Eldlich out of being irrelevant to now being one of the top decks that players are going to have to watch out for. You bet backward removal is going to be prevalent in this new environment. So this deck is created with trying to oppress the opponent as much as possible, but very aware that now players are going to be onto us. They're going to be after your skill drains. They're going to be after your floodgates. So we're going to keep that in mind. All right, guys. So with that out of the way, let me go ahead and show you this amazing, very competitive Eldlich Trap version of the deck, and let's get started. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started. Now the first cards I want to talk about, we're going to talk about the monsters. We're going to go ahead and play 2 copies of Eldlich the Golden Lord. Again, it's an Eldlich deck. This is the card right here that is going to be basically dealing most of the damage to our opponent, and it's also going to protect us because he comes back as a 3500 attack and 3800 defense monster that cannot be destroyed by card effects. Now, there's also a Yu-Gi-Oh rule that says that if you don't own secret rare copies of Eldlich, you only get to play 1 skill drain, so keep that in mind. I'm just joking. Alright guys, the other card that we're going to be playing here, we're only playing 2 monsters. It is Eldlich, and the other monster that we're playing at 3 copies is you need the Lord of the Heavenly Prison. You need this card at 3, and the reason why is because remember, Eldlich is meta relevant now, so they are going to be after you. They're going to be after your skill drains, they're going to be after your goes and matches, they're going to be after your back row, and you gotta be able to protect it. The other thing is we play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance, and this is probably one of the best ways to search Pot of Extravagance so that you can use it the following turn. Very well guys, and for our spell cards, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance, and the reason why we want to play 3 copies is because we are looking for numbers here. So with something like Eldlich Zombie World, you're looking for specific cards, but here every single trap card is a high impact trap card, so you're just looking for more trap cards in your hand to be able to keep your opponent at bay and oppress him or her. Now the other card that we're going to play, very important guys, because again we need cards. This is not a combo deck where you can search like 20,000 cards in your deck and summon like 20,000 times. Nope, this is just a deck where you need hand economy because you're trying to stop your opponent, you're trying to floodgate and slow down the pace of the game. So you need your Vaqueros, you need your Conquistadors, you need your Eldlich, you need to get that strategy going as soon as possible. So we play the 3 Cursed Outlands, and then we play 1 copy of Elixir of Black Awakening because again, Eldlich is the main actor in this whole scene, so we need him on the field as soon as possible. Alright guys, go ahead and get comfortable because now we're going to go over the traps, and there's a lot of them. The great majority of the deck is just nothing but high impact trap cards. Now, of course, you want to play your 3 copies of Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine because this is how you're going to be bringing Eldlich out onto the field most of the time, just to keep that grind game going and out-resource your opponent. We're going to play Conquistador of the Golden Land. This is your main weapon. As far as the Eldlich strategy goes, he's going to be able to destroy non-target face-up cards on the field. Then we play 2 Vaqueros of the Golden Land because interrupting and messing with your opponent's graveyard is very important. I mean, for the past couple years, Yu-Gi-Oh has been a very graveyard reliant game. Back in the day, the graveyard was kind of, you know, the end of things. Like if you send something to the graveyard, that was it. But in 2022 Yu-Gi-Oh, the graveyard is really just one more deck for you to use. It is one more deck at your disposal to be able to play the game. So you want to be able to mess with it and interrupt it as much as possible. Now, for the trap cards, guys, this is one of the new cards that we're going to be playing in the main, because remember, now Eldlich has a prize on its head. Before, this was my side deck option because once people are aware of what you're playing, they were going to play back row removal. But now, since Eldlich is a recognizable tier 1 deck, players will main or will side even more than ever cards to get rid of back row. So this is what this card is here for. This card right here is it's in the deck to address things like evenly match, you know, all those cards that really mess with you. We're gonna play 3 Solemn Strikes because destroying monsters and stopping their effects is very important. We're gonna play 3 Ice Dragon's Prison, because well, not every, but most of the good strategies out there, they belong to an archetype, meaning that, for instance, the Phantom Knight strategy, like all their monsters are warriors, so you need to, you're gonna be able to use this card. Strategies like Sorcerer that are so good and so oppressive, all their monsters are worms, so you are going to be able to get stuff from their graveyard, like the Bashudas and all these other cards that have graveyard effects, and also get rid of something on the field. So very important cards. We also play 3 Torrential Tributes. This card is amazing, especially when your opponent just starts going off, building an amazing board. You drop this, boom, everything they did was for nothing. We play 3 Dogmatica Punishments. Very, very good card. You don't want to draw it, like 2 of them, because you can only, this one and the Ice Dragon's Prison, you can only use 1 of these cards per turn, but all the other cards you can activate as many as you want. Now the next thing that we play 2 Goes in Match. Goes in Match, very good card. It doesn't really stop you because your Eldlich monsters are all light, and the only other card in this deck that will be affected by Gozen is, like your Heavenly Lord. But the main purpose of your Heavenly Lord for most of the game is going to be to just protect your back row. And then eventually, yes, you do want to be able to bring them on the field to get that search effect. But a lot of times, that's just at the end of the game when you're going to swing for game. Most of the time, he's just going to be hovering in your hand, being revealed to protect your back row. And the last card, guys, I want to talk about, this right here is the Men of the Hour. We are going to play 3 copies of Skill Drain. Now I am using these right here to represent those other 2 copies of Skill Drain, which are already on their way. I already ordered them. They're probably going to be in the mail sometime next week, but until then we're just using these right here to signify our 2 copies of Skill Drain plus the one I actually own. Guys, this card right here is the one card that brought Eldlich from just being a kind of a rogue / tier 2 deck to an actual tier 1 strategy, guys. This card is just amazing. This card right here is a one-way ticket to 2005 Yu-Gi-Oh! When the main actors of the game were those normal monsters that could swing for game, like Blue Eyes White Dragon, or even earlier, when we had those structure decks with Joey and Kaiba and Yugi, and the moment somebody dropped something like Red Eyes, Dark Magician, or Summons Cold, I was like, oh man, what a powerful monster. This thing turns back the clock to an era where normal monsters were the rule, and it really slows the pace of the game down. Now a lot of people will say, that's kind of like dumbing Yu-Gi-Oh down to a crawl, but remember, the game used to be a lot slower. So this game wasn't always as fast paced, as crazy, I'm gonna summon 20 monsters in one turn. Yu-Gi-Oh used to be a game of attrition back in the day, so if anything, while newer players would feel like cards like this dumb the game down, us older players that remember Yu-Gi-Oh from its beginnings, this kind of takes the game a little bit back to the way it used to be. So plus and minuses, but again, this card right here, guys, very amazing. I think the Brave Eldlich package or strategy is a good one. Zombie Eldlich is a good one as well. But with something like Skill Drain at 3, guys, I think, as much as it pains me to say it, because I'm not a big fan of setting 5 and passing, I don't find that very fun, Trap Eldlich, guys, is the way to go. Alright, guys, so let's go ahead and move on into the extra deck monsters. Very well, guys, and moving into the extra deck, we have Elder Entity Entis. Now this card right here, the purpose of this card is to send it to the graveyard with Dogmatica Punishment. You get an extra pop. Now this is one of the versions of Eldlich, and which is pretty realistic to make the Divine Arsenal Double A Zeus Sky Thunder, because the only cards that really lock you out of the extra deck, out of anything other than zombie monsters, is cards like Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine or Elixir of Black Awakening. Other than that, and of course the punishment locks you out of the extra deck, but other than that, you are actually going to realistically go into this card several times, so amazing card to have in this deck. Now the reason we can bring this card onto the field is because we play the Super Dreadnought package of Gustav Max and Juggernaut Libe. So these 2 Gustav Max, we play them because they're very important. That's why we play 2 of them. any card that is actually important in the extra deck, we play 2 of, because we play Pot of Extravagance. So we can live without the Juggernaut Libe, but we really need the Gustav Max, because you're just gonna swing for game a lot of the time by inflicting 2,000. You attack your opponent, you deal damage, and sometimes they'll be left with like 1,500 life points left. You bring this thing into the field by using either your Eldlich or your Heavenly Lord. Both of them are level 10s, and then boom, just use the effect to deal 2,000, and that's game. Especially during the second and third matches, this card comes in very, very handy. Alright guys, I apologize, I had to cut the video a little bit short, but continuing with our extra deck monsters, we play 1 copy of Constello Pleiades and 1 copy of Chronomaly Vermana. Now these 2 cards right here serve the same purpose. These are cards that are made with level 5 monsters, and we can use our trap monsters to go into them very easily. And since we play Ghost in Match and we already have light attribute monsters on the field, we will not be locked out of them, so they're very, very viable options to go into. Now these 2 cards right here, guys, these 2 copies of Wind Pegasus at Ignister. This is a card that I didn't really think was going to be that good until you actually use it and you realize, man, this card right here it's truly an asset to this deck, because a lot of times there won't be a second card for you to pop when you use Dogmatic Punishment. So what you do instead, you send the Wind Pegasus. It's got a respectable 2,300 attack, and then your opponent is going to completely forget that you have that card in the graveyard. Next time he or she destroys something on your side of the field, well, guess what? You banish the Wind Pegasus, and then you can return something on the field to their deck. And if it is an extra deck monster, all those resources that they used to bring that monster onto the field, they were wasted, because that monster is going to be returned to the deck. Also, if the monster has destruction protection, that doesn't matter, because it's just going to return it into the deck. This card right here, guys, is a great asset to this deck, or any deck that plays Dogmatic Punishment, for that matter. And the next thing we're going to talk about, guys, we're going to use 1 Nightmare Phoenix in case you need to get rid of something in your opponent's back row. We're going to play 1 Chalice Dragon and 1 Link Spider. These serve the same purpose. They're made by using 1 normal monster, so your trap monsters. The Link Spider is just really, has 1,000 attack, sends your trap monsters into the graveyard to use their effects. But the Chalice Dragon actually has a little bit of utility, because if it happens to point to something your opponent to a strong monster your opponent controls, the monster is destroyed at the beginning of the battle phase. So that, every now and then it'll come really handy. And the last card, guys, this is again another card keeping in mind that now Eldlich is on the radar of a lot of players, and back row destruction is going to be very prevalent. You play 1 Paleozoic Camboraster. The reason why is because if this card is in the graveyard and if a card or cards on your side of the field will be destroyed, you can just banish this card instead, and those cards do not get destroyed. So this card right here, guys, very important now that Eldlich is on the radar, and it will be a sneaky way of protecting your back row that your opponent a lot of times will not keep in mind. They forget that you send that to the graveyard. They'll still use like a Feathers Duster, and then they're like, oh man, I forgot you had that in the graveyard. You banish it, nothing gets destroyed. Alright guys, so with that out of the way, guys, that is my competitive version of Eldlich Traps. Now that Eldlich is a tier 1 strategy again, we Eldlich players can rejoice, knowing that our deck is going to do really well at tournaments. Again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the whole setting 5 and passing, but it's good to know that Eldlich is going to be back at the top tables. Alright guys, please, if you enjoy my videos, guys, go ahead and give me a like, subscribe. I really appreciate your support, guys. Let's go ahead and start this 2022 the best way possible, and I'll catch you in the next one.